I think that the video may have cut off a wee bit quickly in the last episode of Ramblings. Sorry, my phone apparently ran out of data and enforced the 5-minute time, the 5-minute time limit very rigorously. Anyway, today in Ramblings with Rebecca, want to kind of further the conversation about peace building, the question about peace building, to talk a little bit about the coexistence of cooperation and conflict. This is another thing that's very much done by my PhD supervisor, but that I very much like. And NAHO does this around river basins and water agreements in particular. But it's something that just in general, we've had some experience in Ramblings ages back on Becca's complete and total hatred for dichotomies, either or situations with things, very polarized. I'm a big fan of spectrums and, that kind of thing. So NAHO does this with conflict and cooperation, right? I think we traditionally tend to think of, two parties, be it brother, sister, partner, government, country A, country B, whatever, as either cooperating or being in conflict. And this is probably not necessarily the case. So it's peace or war, right? No, not so much. There's a lot of space in between. And so, there are intensities of conflict and cooperation, that the either or probably doesn't really accurately reflect. But I think there's also a question of, can both happen at the same time, right? I mean, so even while, the United States is actively at war with another country, there are Americans in that country, trying to do good things, right? And there are expat communities from that country living in America, trying to put a stop to the war. And or there might be academics and researchers from both countries actually, co-authoring a paper or, in the research lab together or whatever. So this happens on those kind of scales, but also even, around like a particular resource or issue itself, right? I mean, there might be, a quite heated disagreement around a river basin, but that doesn't mean that the people who are disagreeing aren't also, cooperating at some level to make sure, that another party, doesn't take all the water, or cooperate, to, on necessary, maintenance, on a shared dam construction or whatever. So conflict and cooperation, different intensities, also may happen at the same time and, coexist. The coexistence of conflict and cooperation. The other thing that I think this dichotomy tends to suggest, or kind of buy into, is that conflict is bad, cooperation is good. Sure, on the face of it. But is that actually true? Is all conflict bad and is all cooperation good? There are lots of different kinds of things that we might classify as conflict or cooperation. I presented a couple of days ago potential critiques of environmental peace building and talked a little bit about, this worry that, maybe, bringing people together with natural resources is actually just kind of greenwashing everything and, saying it's okay, even though there's, this massive power inequality that isn't actually being addressed well. That could be, the same could be true of cooperation, right? Which is actually, bullying, just because two states agree in a treaty to something doesn't mean that both states, got equal amounts out of it, right? Or, just because two parties do something together, doesn't mean one isn't being coerced, right? So there's forced or bullied cooperation, which isn't necessarily a good thing, right? Or there's cooperation together to do something that really hurts another party. Also potentially not really good cooperation. And then is all conflict bad, right? I mean, so some conflict brings attention to issues that need to be addressed. I would argue that, conflict with guns and bombs is not good. But maybe conflict that, makes people or governments uncomfortable and thus, brings about a more just outcome at the end of it could potentially be good. So, questioning that kind of thing.